In 2023, I missed a $40,000 book by $1. And I went after my all-time grail only to have my heart crushed. It's not all bad news. I did end up scoring a big-time copy of a Silver Age monster. Hi everyone, for those who don't know me, my name is Keston and this is Keston's Old School Comic Books. I thought I'd share my highs and lows as a comic book collector and YouTuber in 2023, and what to expect in 2024. Let's start with the collecting lows. I thought 2023 might be my year to get my all-time favorite grail, a book I want more than Action 1 or Detective 27. It's Marvel Comics #1. Yes, it's the elven-faced Human Torch cover that makes my heart beat. Foolishly, I passed on opportunities to get this book 10 years ago when it was selling for merely $25,000 a point. A gorgeous 2.5 came up at Heritage Auctions, but as expected was way above my means. But in late 2023, this much more pedestrian copy popped up. A low-grade restore book, plus I thought the mediocre eye appeal might subdue the bidding. I crossed my fingers and I thought $100,000 just might get it. But before I had a chance to put in my final bid, somebody had already hit $100,000. Then another bid and another bid and another bid, and this book ended up selling for over $130,000. And I wonder whether I will ever get this book in my collection. If I missed Marvel 1 by a mile, I missed this next book by an inch. It is Sensation Comics #1. To me, I'd rather have this book than All-Star 8, which is the first appearance of Wonder Woman. Sensation 1 is Wonder Woman's first cover appearance. I mean, just look at those bracelets and the bullets popping off of them and tell me that book isn't cool. You can't do it because it's amazing. I did my research and I thought, you know what? $40,000 might just snag this mid-grade copy. And for this one, I put that bid in ahead of time, and then the next morning I look and I missed out. Not by a lot, but by a single dollar. I lost, and maybe sometime in the future, I'll get a Sensation 1, but it was not in the cards for 2023. Here are some honorable mentions in the lost category. Wishful thinking couldn't make my $50,000 stretch far enough to get this unbelievable copy of 7 Seas #4. And I came up $100 shy of getting this highest graded copy of Thrilling 68. This next story also began in the losers column, but I wasn't going to have yet another sob story. Marvel Mystery 40, which I consider to be the premier WW2 cover, has been a book that has escaped me for a long time, and I put on the very top of my list, I am going to get it in 2023. This book popped up a few times in 2023, and every time I was in it, but just missed out. And I said, damn it, enough is enough. This is the fisherman who kept losing a fish, and it gets personal after a while. It's like, I gotta get that fish. And so there was a 2.0 copy up on Comic Connect for $5,000. Buy it now. And I said, I'm going to swoop on in there and I'm going to get that book, even though it's a little pricey for grade. But daggone it, I am happy to finally get this book in my collection. For a 2.0, it looks very sharp. The other big book I snagged might be considered an accident. This is a comic book that's been on my wish list for a long time, but not super high. I'll put a bid or two after this book, but I'll put in pretty low, pretty conservative bids, and then see if fate will give me that book. This is a book that in recent years has just gone way up in value, too far, too fast, in my opinion. So the bid I put in was about 20% lower than what I thought the book would sell for. And lo and behold, my bid just barely got it, and I ended up snagging this amazing copy of Fantastic Four #1 for just over $30,000, which is over a 50% discount of what it had been selling for about a year or a year and a half ago. Let's move from comic books to this YouTube channel. The biggest disappointments are videos that I put a hell of a lot of time in. I'm talking 20 to 50 hours a piece that underperformed. The first is the GOAT Pyramid. I selected what I consider to be the top 30 comic books of all time and placed them on 5 tiers. The folks who watched it loved it and gave me an earful about how their top 30 would differ from my top 30, which, by the way, I love that kind of debate. I think it was the thumbnail, because people couldn't tell what the video was about, that ultimately made this video underperform. Nevertheless, folks, I am going to follow up that video and respond to some of the amazing comments that you all gave me. The second video was a fantastic topic. It was visualizing rarity and condition of comic books over the past 90 years, and this is based off of some research by this wizard named Greg Holland. To me, it's one of the most fascinating videos that I've ever done because it gives you a sense of how those things change over time with comic books, rarity and condition. Yet again, I think it was the thumbnail that failed me. It was a really interesting topic, but a scatter plot just isn't the most exciting thing, the most clickable thing for a viewer. For the third one, I spent dozens and dozens and dozens of hours producing it. The idea is this: not all years are equal when it comes to the popularity of the books that came out. You might be surprised to know that between 1938 and 1970, so this is the golden through the silver age, there are 4 years that account for half of the mega grails. Anyway, I really screwed up the intro. Somehow I got QC included aliens in there. Yeah, it was a dumb idea. By the way, I've linked to each of these videos, the ones that didn't perform well and also ones that performed well in 2023 in the description box below. So check them out if you want to take a deeper dive into Keston's old school comic books. On the positive side, I had quite a few videos that you all responded really well to. My biggest hit focused on a comic book that started off as a 9.6 blue label and ended up as a 9.8 green, meaning that it went from universal, so a grade with no qualifications, to a book that had a qualified label. And I followed the story all the way to what does that 9.8 sell for? And by the way, it sold for a lot less than it was blue label 9.6. The second best performing video was my opus on how to invest in comic books if you're willing to spend $1,000 or more. This 25-minute beast gives honest advice if you want to throw down the big bucks for a comic book. Last, and this one has some momentum, is my video on collecting advice from beginning to advanced. It's closing in on 6,000 views. But the joy of seeing views rise on a video pales in comparison to making good friends and learning more about this amazing hobby. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about that. Here are a few YouTubers I had the good fortune of collaborating with.
Hazel Dan.
Hey.
Hello, this is Alex, the comic hoarder.
Hi, this is Alan, the comic collector geek.
And I even got to meet Alan in person.
Hey, internet friends for 2 years. We're finally meeting each other in person here in Orlando.
Yeah.
I was also able to work with some movers and shakers in the comic book sphere that are not necessarily YouTubers. Alex, the comic hoarder, and I had the opportunity to interview Ivan Briggs, who is in the process of auctioning off one of the most amazing collections that you'll ever see. It's a complete collection of every DC comic book from 1933 to 2014 if it hit the newsstand. So think about every single possible mega grail you can think of: Action 1, Tech 27, Flash 1, All-American 16. This collection has them all. I also got to speak with a couple of Overstreet advisors. Ben Labinog and I shared our fears about the hobby. And I got to meet Ben just recently over in San Francisco. Greg Holland is another dude. This guy is absolutely brilliant. The way he thinks about comic books is the way that a professor would think about their research topic of interest. And he and I did a video on how do you think about the market capitalization of comics. And it's sort of a counterintuitive way of thinking about value, but it blew my mind. And again, like the other videos, is down in the description box. Barry Sandoval, VP at Heritage Auctions, shared his experience of what it's like to sell a $3.6 million comic book. I mean, the books that guy has had his hands on are unbelievable. And my number one interview seems like a miracle. I was able to interview two granddaughters of my comic book artist hero, Alex Schomburg. Now, he's a person who passed away in the late 1990s, but his contribution to comic books is legendary. And these two women grew up with him, saw him on a weekly basis, and the stories they tell about him are wonderful. He is perhaps even a better person than he was an artist, which is saying a lot. Funny enough, they didn't know that Alex Schomburg was a big deal artist because he was so humble, he never bragged about himself. to you all as viewers. Many of you are super encouraging, and the words that you give to me are fuel to continue to work on this hobby. For you, I thank you, and here are a few of my favorite comments of the year. Okay, so what's coming in 2024? I've got 4 things. First, I hope to be a bit more productive. Over the last couple years, I've averaged about 2 videos per month. I'm hoping to bump that up to about 3 videos per month. Second, another personal theme for me is I continue to try to go from like an intermediate collector to be much more advanced. And the best way I know of doing that is to connect with super smart people in the hobby. So I'm talking about more overstreet advisors, more big time dealers, and getting a sense of what inspires them about the hobby. Like, what do they know that we don't, and how can we learn that from them? Third is comic book hunting, and I have 2 very different goals here. One is to go after some mega grails. I have a list of 10 books that I've been going after for quite some time, and I'm hoping to at least get 1 or 2 of them. The second goal is in the opposite direction. I'm going for books that are more like silver and bronze and copper. I think that the market was, of course, way too hot in the last couple of years, but it's really like coming down. I'm hoping to do some bargain hunting and get some keys, and I'd like to share my strategies with you on how to do that. Last, and this is probably the most important, I'm hoping to have fun. I hope to work with other YouTubers and other people, maybe have some trivia nights, get together and explore what makes this hobby so great. As a mentor of mine used to say, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. Now's the time to turn the mic back around to you. What ideas do you have for this channel in 2024? Please let me know. It may just be my next video. In any event, know that I read every comment that you write, and I reply to the vast majority of them. I hope everyone has a great 2024, and then you meet some of your goals as a collector and investor. Thanks so much for watching, my friends, and I hope to see you around real soon.